UFC 289 Nunes versus Aldana just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Belbita versus Maria Oliveira. Coin flip fight. I went with Maria Oliveira to win this one. Belbita got it done. She basically just outworked Maria Oliveira for every single round of the fight. Had her moments where she got taken down. Maria Oliveira had more control time, more takedowns in the fight, but just did absolutely nothing with that whatsoever. And Belbita was more busy. 41-28 in round 1, 22-7 in round 2, 43-29 in round 3. She was landing better shots on the feet. Both girls looked really, really bad and low quality as fighters, but that's to be expected. But Belbita was at least aggressive and trying to put together combos and actively trying to score points for herself to win this fight. So good job from her. Pretty hot as well. We move on to another fight on the card, which was Steve Erceg versus David Dvorak. Good performance by Steve Erceg. I knew he was a dangerous underdog because I don't think Dvorak is that good, but I didn't think that Steve Erceg was going to beat the number 10 flyweight in the world in his debut on short notice as well. So for Steve Erceg, congratulations. He got a performance bonus for his performance as well, which I think he deserves. And I think the UFC are just kind of paying him out because they know that he's going to be in the rankings now, and they don't want a guy making 12 for 12 to be in the rankings. So they gave him a nice little bonus to take home as well. Good for him. He wants to fight in September. We'll see who he gets next. No doubt going to be a ranked opponent, or maybe an Alan Nascimento Ferreira, someone who deserves a ranked opponent, will be given the shot against Erceg. Who knows? But he looked good. Round 1, Dvorak was winning round 1 in my opinion. Landed the better shots, landed more of the shots. I believe Erceg had a moment where he landed a good shot on Dvorak that got some kind of reaction, but Dvorak was landing more of the shots. Landing leg kicks. He got a takedown at one point as well. Had his moments. Landed decent shots on the feet. Very, very patient first round between them, though. And then in round 2, Dvorak was cruising the round. Doing really, really good in the round. And I was thinking to myself, I'm right. Dvorak's going to win this fight 29-28 or 30-27. Erceg's not doing enough to win. Dvorak's cruising towards a victory. And then boom, Erceg catches him with a big shot. I believe it was a head kick at one point. Maybe it barely missed. But he landed a big shot that ended up hurting Dvorak quite badly. Had him going backwards, and Erceg just started pouring it on, making things happen towards the end of round 2 to secure himself round 2 at the end of it. He even ended up on top at one point as well. And then in round 3, Steve Erceg wins the round, got himself a takedown, had some time on top, and just outstruck David Dvorak on the feet. Dvorak was gassed out in the third. I don't know what gassed him out. It was an incredibly low-paced fight. A really, really low-paced fight with barely any grappling and literally just a tit-for-tat fight at range with very low output. But Dvorak started to slow down on a full camp when Erceg didn't. So MMA making sense once again. Dvorak loses. Good for Erceg, though. Gets a bonus and gets a win against a top 10 fighter in his debut, which is so impressive for a guy who isn't from another major organization to do. So really good job from Steve Erceg. Amazing performance. He gets it done as the fight goes on after a good moment at the end of round 2. We move on to another moment on the card, or another fight on the card, that was Kyle Nelson versus Blake Bilder. I should have just picked every Canadian on the card because they swept the whole thing. Kyle Nelson gets it done. Very good performance. Not really, though. They both looked pretty bad. Again, like, there were a lot of fights on the prelims, by the way. I'm not just saying this because I got them wrong, but a lot of fights on the prelims were like, what are we watching here? Let's get going. Let's actually make a fight happen here. What am I watching? Because Blake Bilder just sort of like let the fight get away from him. He only threw punches. He didn't throw enough of those punches whatsoever. He tried 30 in round 2, 39 in round 3. He wasn't throwing enough to win, and Nelson wasn't really doing so either. Round 1 went to Bilder, but it was a very close round. But I thought it went to Bilder. He did a little bit more damage. He had some time control as well by shooting takedowns against the cage that he wasn't really getting. But Nelson had good moments in round 2 and 3. Big shots were landed by him. Big punches were landing quite often from him as well. Really good leg kicks were landed by him as well. Solid leg kicks. Good shots to the body. Good kicks to the body as well. And then in round 3, when he's down 21-11 on significant strikes, Blake Bilder decides to start doing little fun gamesmanship moments in the third round. Starts dancing in the third round in front of Nelson. Starts mocking him as well by beckoning him on and licking the blood from his glove. And I'm just like, you've had a terrible fight. Stop doing all of these showboat moments. You're losing. You're clearly going to lose. Throw something to win. And he just never did. 11 strikes in round 3 when he needed to win that round at least. Crazy. But great performance by Nelson. He wins, I guess. Wasn't really a great performance, but he got the win. So good job to him. Bilder gets found out as terrible. We move on. Up the card to another fight, Aiemann Zahabi versus Aori Qileng. Different to all the other prelims. This was a really nice KO from Aiemann Zahabi. Aori Qileng was throwing some big shots early on, was outlanding Zahabi early on, I guess, as well. And then Aori Qileng just left himself too open. He was going for leg kicks over and over again. And I feel like Zahabi started to realize that. Like, I think, what was it? Let me look at the stats right here. Aori Qileng threw 5 strikes, landed 5 strikes, and 80% of them were to the legs. So 4 of them were to the legs of Aiemann Zahabi. So he's basically nearly only throwing leg kicks to start off the fight. And then Zahabi timed him. As he threw the leg kick, Zahabi threw the punch with the right hand, stepped through, and threw the left hook that landed right on the chin of Aori Qileng. Dropped him badly. I thought he was out cold for a second, but he wasn't, so it left this weird, awkward moment where Zahabi's looking at him on the ground, and the ref hasn't stopped it yet, so he goes in, lands the follow-up shot that he needs to land, and Aiemann Zahabi gets it done by knockout in the first round. Very good performance. Very good KO. No doubt got a performance bonus as well for his win. And he deserves that performance bonus too. So good for him, dude. Nice little 50k bonus for Aiemann Zahabi. He didn't get a performance bonus. Wow. He actually didn't get a performance bonus. Steve Erceg didn't even get a finish, but he got a bonus just because he beat a top 10 guy. Zahabi got a wicked first round KO and didn't get anything. He must be so mad about that. There were barely any finishes on the card, and they didn't even give him a win for a finish. They gave it to a decision win that wasn't all that entertaining from Erceg. It was a lackluster performance from Erceg as well. He just edged out the later rounds. I can't believe Zahabi didn't get a 50k bonus over him. Crazy. Either way, we move on to another fight on the card, which was a fight between Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Miranda Maverick. Very surprising fight. I know Jasudavicius can grapple a bit, but I thought Miranda Maverick would have a bit of an advantage in the grappling and maybe on the striking as well. We've seen Jasmine Jasudavicius have a few pretty lackluster fights recently in her career, especially in a recent one against Natalia Silva where she got absolutely schooled by Natalia Silva on the feet. And in a recent fight with Fernandez was like, okay, she got takedowns, but it was a terrible fight, terrible performance from her. Other than that, she's beaten Kay Hansen in a close decision. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, Kay Hansen did better against Jasmine Jasudavicius than Miranda Maverick did. And that's not an overstatement at all. Hansen literally won the 3rd round dominantly. Miranda Maverick did worse. And Miranda Maverick beat Macy Barber, so I'm not picking Macy Barber to beat Amanda Ribas. I'm taking it back. Clearly, Barber is absolute trash. Miranda Maverick, just giving up bottom position, looking bad on the feet. And to be fair to Jasmine Jasudavicius, she did well. She got on top, landed total strikes. Even while being outstruck early in the fight at range here and there, she just made sure to get her takedowns, end up on top, have her moments on top of the fight. I think every judge gave Maverick round 1. And then round 2 and 3, Jasmine Jasudavicius just kind of took over. Got her takedowns, and just got the total strikes off and just sort of reversed the takedowns of Miranda Maverick as well. Whenever she tried them, she got none of them. 0% takedown rate. We move on to another fight up the card, which was a fight between Nassourdine Imavov versus Chris Curtis. Weird ending to this one. Not a winner, not a loser, no contest. Very strange if you haven't watched it. Nassourdine Imavov was looking good in the fight, to be fair. He was on his way to winning, but the problem is about this fight is the main part we all wanted to see was the later half of the fight with Nassourdine Imavov because he was getting hit to the body by Curtis. Curtis was doing a good job of chopping at his legs as well. Chris Curtis landed how many significant strikes? 26, 53% of them were to the legs and 30% of them were to the body as well. So barely any headshots from Curtis. He was investing heavily in this fight. And Imavov was getting takedowns, but Curtis was getting right back up. But that ruined Curtis's 100% takedown defense rate. But Curtis was investing well in this fight, landing to the body, landing to the legs. Imavov was outlanding him to the head by landing like shots whenever he was getting back up from takedowns or landing a bunch of little shots on the face of Curtis whenever he was keeping his guard up, just peppering a jab out there and stuff like that. So he was doing good. Imavov probably would have won, maybe, if he didn't gas out. It didn't look like he was gassing that bad, but that's what we all wanted to see. And Chris Curtis, yeah, he got head clashed, basically, is what happened. Imavov started doing pretty well, landing some decent shots. Curtis kind of called him on, and then Imavov started throwing some shots, leading his head behind it as well. And eventually they clashed heads. Hit the forehead of Imavov to the temple and the eyebrow of Chris Curtis. And Chris Curtis had a cut opened up on his eye, right above his eye. Pretty bad. The eye started to swell up. I feel like he didn't want the fight to end. He just wanted more time to recover. But they can't wait that long because the main card was supposed to start at, 3 a.m. UK time? And they were still looking at his eye with 2 minutes to go until the main card had to start. So they couldn't even give him time to recover. He was either ready or he wasn't. He wasn't ready because of the headbutt. Sucks for Curtis. He's had 2 of those headbutts back to back. And the referee had to call it off. So no contest. Unfortunate, but that's how it is. Maybe we can run this fight back in a couple of months' time, at some point on a September fight night card. That would sound pretty good. We move on to another fight up the card, which was Marc-Andre Barriault versus Eryk. Very competitive fight. Both guys had their moments, but throughout the fight, Marc-Andre Barriault did enough to get the win. In round 3, he had a great round 3, and often you ain't winning a round 3 against Marc-Andre Barriault, unless you're Anthony Hernandez, who has a different level of cardio. But Marc-Andre Barriault, power bar, known for his cardio, known to push the pace, known to wear down the power bar of his opponent. But won this fight based on that round 1 knockdown, right? Because outside of that moment in round 1 where he knocked down Anders, he probably would lose that round. He was getting kneed in the clinch quite a bit by Anders. Anders was landing really good shots, 37-30 in that first round, and that's including the knockdown from Andre Barriault on the follow-up shots. But Barriault threw a head kick and a right hand behind it, caught Anders badly, dropped him in the first round. That wins him that round, and he also kept competitive as that round went on as well. Round 2 was very close, could go either way, arguably Anders. Every judge gave it to Marc-Andre though, but it could be Anders' round. Very close, but I just thought Anders landed some big shots which seemed to get more of a reaction out of Marc-Andre than Marc-Andre's shots got out of Eryk. He also got a takedown at one point as well and ended up on top. And then round 3, round 3, Marc-Andre did what he needed to do. Put the pressure on, kept landing really big body kicks, which were huge in this fight for him. He landed a bunch of front kicks to the body, a bunch of big body kicks at range as well. And you could see when Anders wanted to come forward, those body kicks would completely stop that forward momentum completely. And he'd stand still like, God, that body kick hurt. And then Andre Barriault was able to land some good punches as well, rocking Anders in round 3 and having some good moments at the end of that as well. So very good performance from Marc-Andre Barriault. This got fight of the night. I feel like Ige versus Landwehr was better, but they went with this one. They love giving middleweights money, and they've given them some money. So good for them to get the bonus. We move on to another fight on the card, which was Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr. Sucks to see. Really does suck to see this because I knew it was going to happen. I'm just happy it didn't happen by KO. It almost did twice in this fight. Dan Ige beats Nate Landwehr. Basically, the first and second round were very competitive until Dan Ige had a massive moment at the end of the rounds. Basically, both guys landing decent shots. Dan Ige was landing the better shots. So even if he didn't get the knockdowns, there's still arguments that he wins both those first 2 rounds. And I think he would win those both the first 2 rounds. He landed the better shots, good leg kicks, landed good shots to the body as well that started opening up some shots upstairs. But it was the left hook. It was the left hook from Dan Ige on the chin of Nate Landwehr. Landwehr has a problem where he puts his chin up in the air when he does exchanges. It's very unfortunate. I think Landwehr's at his best when both fighters are tired. Then he can start making mistakes and they're not so bad. You know what I'm saying? I think if this was a 5-rounder, Landwehr would win, but it wasn't. It was a 3-rounder. Ige dropped him at the end of round 1. More off balance. Landwehr popped right back up and got back to work. But round 2, he dropped Landwehr badly. And Landwehr was really badly hurt as well, to where if one more clean shot would have landed good, maybe he would have been out cold in that second round, because even when he got up at the end of round 2, he was wobbling around, looking for his corner. Like, it was a really bad look for Landwehr at the end of round 2. I thought he was about to get finished in round 3, but Round 3, he brings it back. Nate Landwehr still having a close round with Ige, by the way, but he starts bringing it back towards the end of round 3 especially, and he starts having some moments where he's really pouring it on Ige and landing really good shots. The only thing I wanted more of from Nate Landwehr was some wrestling, man. He needs to wrestle a little bit more, not shooting singles and doubles. Wrestling up against the cage. He's got such good clinch work. And if you watch Nate Landwehr's clinch game, he goes from position to position. You aren't going to out-clinch Nate Landwehr. He's very, very good in that position, landing knees and elbows. But he didn't throw enough of the knees and elbows to start taking an effect on Dan Ige until the very end of the 3rd round, where he started having some moments. Not a demoralizing loss for Nate Landwehr. He showed that he still sort of belongs at the top. He didn't get washed out by Dan Ige and exposed, but he did get dropped at the end of the rounds. Needs to work on some strike and defense. And, hey, he lost. I wanted him to win badly. It would have been much better to have him at the top of the division than Dan Ige. But maybe we can do Nate Landwehr versus one of these other top featherweights coming off a loss sometime in the future. Would be pretty cool to see. Maybe they could even do Nate Landwehr versus Charles Jourdain in France in September. Who knows? That could be a good idea as well. Nate Landwehr lost, but we got the payoff of Oliveira winning. We move on. Up the card, Mike Mallott versus Adam Fugitt. Mike Mallott gets it done. Really, really impressive performance from him. There were some moments in this fight where I thought to myself, man, Mike Mallott's kind of slow. He was throwing some shots, and I was like, damn, that is a really slow body kick. And I realized that they're welterweights, but I've been watching Jack Della Maddalena, Shavkat Rakhmonov, you know what I mean? I've been watching some of these upcoming welterweights, Ian Gary, and some of the speed that they throw strikes at, different than Mike Mallott's speed. But the power of Mike Malott is also very different, and he showed that in round 2, eventually finishing with a guillotine. Very, very nice guillotine from him. Latched it up immediately. Didn't even connect to the hands until the end of it, where he really put on a bit of a squeeze that got the tap out of Adam Fugitt. But really, really good first round. Very slow-paced first round. He ended on top. Had some moments there, got a good takedown or two, ended up throwing Fugitt over himself to end up in half guard on top and just sort of rode out the round there. Early in round 1, he actually hurt Fugitt to the body. Oh my God. I'll talk about it in a second. I will talk about it. Early in round 1, he hurt Fugitt to the body, but didn't follow up enough to get the finish from it. But round 2, you could see he was still going to the body, and Fugitt hated him going to the body. Eventually, he stepped in. After throwing that rear body kick so many times, he could just step in, and Fugitt would lower his hands thinking, oh God, that rear leg's coming. He's going to throw another body kick. And he just stepped through, left hook, or right hook, left hook, whatever way around it was. Clean shots, wicked knockdown from Mike Mallott. Very good performance from him, but it was Adam Fugitt, so we have to take this performance with a pinch of salt because Fugitt ain't the best. This wasn't like Ian Gary beating D-Rod. You know what I'm saying? D-Rod's a legit fighter. Fugitt, we still don't know, let's just say. But I do want to talk about this. Mike Malott nearly died on the walkout. He's walking out, and just before he leaves the tunnel, the entire railing comes down from the crowd. Up above, on the side, as he's walking out the tunnel. The railing comes down. These soy Canadians are leaning over like downs. It comes down, and no joke, 12 people fall down with the railing. None of them got hurt, apparently, because it wasn't a massive drop. But I'm being honest with you right now. Final destination moment right there. If Malott would have walked out a second or two earlier, that railing's coming down on top of him with the weight of 10 people on it. He could have seriously been hurt by that. I'm not going to say he could have died, but he would have probably been disabled after that. He's walking straight out the tunnel, back stretched. He would have had head to toe, all on his spine at once, a massive barrier railing come down with the weight of about 10 people on there. You know what I mean? That would have been a real horrific moment. I'm so glad that it missed him. Just barely, and he came out towards the side and didn't get hit by it. But that was absolutely crazy to see. That could have been an absolute disaster on pay-per-view. Canada and their engineering, terrible. We move on. Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. Very good performance from Charles Oliveira. His best performance to date. This is his best performance of all time, maybe. he like had moments where he was on his back and, you know, Dariush had control and landed a few decent shots. But let's be real here, man. Oliveira's had a ton of fights where he's been hurt and dropped and had to go through tough rounds. And, you know, one judge had it 10-8 Chandler in round 1. And he's had those fights dropped by Gaethje, dropped by Poirier, dropped by Daniel Tamer. You know what I mean? Like, he's had fights where he's been in trouble and he's had to pull out the win. And this was the best performance of his career after a loss. Like, it's crazy how good Oliveira is. In no way did I expect Oliveira to have the best performance of his career after getting divorced in the middle of training camp, getting injured in the middle of training camp, and coming off a loss to Makhachev and losing his belt. And he does. He goes out there against Dariush, starts off the round pretty slow, pretty patient, lands some good knees to the body and stuff like that in the clinch. But starts off the round pretty slow. Dariush lands a couple good leg kicks, a couple good body kicks as well and stuff like that. A couple decent shots to the head on Oliveira, but Oliveira staying calm and trying to see everything coming. And then they end up going to the grappling against the cage. Oliveira tries to lateral drop him after bouncing him off the cage. Dariush ends up on top. Terrible for Oliveira. But he stays calm, goes for a leg. Dariush escapes it, ends up on top, landing good shots to the body and head. Oliveira landed a few decent elbows and hammer fists off of his back, and I believe landed a decent up kick at one point as well. And Dariush just went back to landing body shots, head shots in the clinch on the ground, landed a bunch of decent ground and pound shots. Oliveira gets back up to his feet after attacking the leg again, ends up back up on his feet, and once he got back up on his feet, he was like, right, no more going backwards. I ain't letting this guy dictate the fight. I've got like 2 rounds left at this point. There's only a minute left in round 1. Goes after Dariush, lands good shots, throws up the right hand, head kick behind it, lands around the guard of Dariush, gets his attention, makes him shocked, makes him panicked, and then Dariush just looked off. He did look off that fight. You have to admit, he looked like the moment was kind of getting to him, or maybe the power of Oliveira registered in his brain, like, I can't get hit by this guy. You know what I mean? Other guys like Gamrot, Dariush might have been thinking, I'm fine on the feet. If he hits me, I'll be fine. I just got to stuff the takedowns and outstrike this guy. But Oliveira on the feet, it's like you're constantly in massive amounts of danger. And you could see his knees to the body getting a reaction out of Dariush. The head kick landed, then a right hook landed behind it as well. Right on the tip of the chin. Made Dariush grimace. Right hook behind the head landed as well. Down goes Dariush. Big follow-up shots of ground and pound. Tried looking for the back, but ended up separating from it and just finding a place to land good shots on Dariush, who was already kind of out of it. And he goes out on the ground. Very, very good win from Charles Oliveira. Gets a performance bonus, learns to speak English as well. They might do the Makhachev rematch. We'll see what happens, but very good win from him. Did not expect the best fight of his career right now. I was wrong. I was so happy to be wrong. We move on to the main event, Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. Well, Amanda Nunes was in this fight, and she retired, by the way, so congratulations to her retiring on top. Double champ, not even a featherweight division in the women's. Every women's featherweight's like, what? She's retiring? Oh, I guess I'm gone as well. Because without Nunes faking her legacy by holding on to that belt that she hasn't defended for 2 years in a weight class that doesn't even exist, weird, that weight class is going to be gone. So all those women's featherweights are going to have to find a way to get down to bantamweight 100%, or they are out of here. Other than that, though, Amanda Nunes, Irene Aldana. Aldana did nothing, basically. She landed one good shot in round 1, a very good shot in round 1, with a right hook as Nunes came in. And Nunes was wildly open for shots. She was throwing shots coming forwards. Every now and again, she'd throw a front kick to the body and a leg kick, and she was landing really good shots, stomping the leg of Aldana, throwing a front kick to the body, going for an inside leg kick. She was landing good shots. But when she went aggressive and went after Aldana with combos, some of them she would land, but she would leave herself way open. And I was waiting the whole time for, when is Aldana going to land this counter shot? She's clearly waiting for the later rounds. She's not throwing anything whatsoever in a title fight of any meaning whatsoever. She landed 8 strikes in round 1, 11 in round 2, 8 in round 3, 13 in round 4, and 1 in round 5. It was like, are you here to win a championship or not? She froze up and did nothing in her fight with Nunes. Absolutely nothing. Threw shots out of range, never committed to anything powerful, and just kept her guard up by her face the entire time. She almost had the intention of just not getting finished. I can't believe that's the highest level of the sport in women's MMA. She showed up like she was ready to lose. 5 rounds, did nothing. And Nunes was there to be hit at times. But great job by Nunes. Great front kicks to the body. Great leg kicks. Great combos upstairs as well that she was landing. Got some takedowns. 6 out of 13. Had a lot of top control. Especially as the rounds went on. She started going for takedowns a little bit more. But Aldana just literally did nothing in that fight. So that's the story of the fight. Aldana showed up to a championship fight with the intention of keeping her guard up the entire time. And not throwing any shots with intention whatsoever. Very interesting, but Amanda Nunes retires, kills the mood in the arena after the Oliveira fight. Would have been great if we went out on that one, but we had to watch that for 25 minutes, that shit. And Nunes retired, and honestly, fair play to Nunes. Retired on top, has her family going, retired on top, 2 belts, GOAT, women's GOAT, let's not just say GOAT of the sport. Fake division at featherweight. No other bantamweight can fight but her, and even her is a bit debatable with some of the punches that she throws with her chin up in the air. But she's the women's GOAT of the sport. Fair play. Best women's fighter of all time. Goes out on top. Pena is immediately starting the "you're ducking me" talk, which is going to get her a ton of hatred. But that's the narrative that she's kind of got to run with if they're 1-1. So, yeah. Amanda Nunes. Irene Aldana. Nunes schooled her for 5 rounds. Aldana didn't do anything to try and win outside of 1 shot in round 1. So good job, Nunes. What an epic challenge that she had to overcome there. Toodle pip. See you later. I went 5-5-1 on predictions on the card. I started off really bad. Couldn't get a fight right to save my life outside of the Zahabi one. But then eventually I got the, obviously the no contest with Imavov Curtis. And I swept the main card outside of Oliveira. And if there's one fight I'm going to be wrong about, I'm glad it was Oliveira's fight. Charles Oliveira, dude. Back on top in the lightweight division like he never left. Amazing stuff. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. Goodbye.